Before you buy your next notebook for journaling, consider a spiral-bound notebook. Stay tuned for 11 reasons for doing so. Thank you for joining Journaling with Steve today for my 6th and final video on my series, How to Pick a Notebook. Today's episode is the surprising benefits of spiral-bound notebooks. First, I'm going to run through 11 benefits that just might surprise you, and then I'll show you a few spiral-bound options along with their pricing. Let's dive right into the benefits. And the first one is pricing. Many of the quality notebook manufacturers offer spiral-bound editions containing the same quality paper that they have in their hardback versions, and the savings are substantial. Let me give you just one example. This is a Rhodia Web Notebook, 192 pages. It retails for $23.85. Or you can get the side spiral-bound edition that is 160 pages for $11.76. That's about 7 cents a page, or 40% off. Or you could even get the same paper again in this top spiral-bound edition that's the same size paper in every edition that we've just named. And this would run you about a nickel a page for 50% off. Number 2, white paper. For those of you who really prefer bright white paper and can't figure out why so many notebook manufacturers use ivory or cream paper in their notebooks, spiral-bound notebooks are readily available with bright white paper that is excellent paper. Number 3, versatility. Spiral-bound notebooks can be used in any setting. Classrooms, business meetings, conferences. You could say that you could do the same thing with a notebook, but that fails to consider the space and others around you. Also, in terms of versatility, remember when I said to go thin when looking for a notebook? My exception to that rule is if you have a spiral-bound notebook. And that's because you can adjust the thickness by simply flipping the pages around. So you can make it thinner by moving the pages to the other side. You can't do that with conventional notebooks. Number 4, variety and quality. Spiral-bound manufacturers will typically run the gamut in terms of sizes from pocket to A4 and sometimes even larger. Some brands will offer multiple page count options in the same size. You might have an A5 that's available in 140 pages or an A5 that's available in 300 pages, for instance. Just think about the quality issue for a second. For whom are spiral-bound notebooks made? They can withstand the rigors and hard uses of being tossed in the backpacks and lockers, in cars, laboratories, space. Astronauts use spiral-bound notebooks. Manufacturing plants, architects, artists. These things are built to be tough. If you haven't ever held a good quality spiral-bound notebook before, you'll be surprised at how differently they feel from the old Mead notebooks. Number 5, real estate. You get more available writing area with the same size paper in a spiral-bound edition than you can in a hardback size. No matter how flat you lay a hardback edition, you can't get the pen to the inmost edge of a page. That's a non-issue on spiral-bound notebooks. Translation, more value. Number 6, they can put you in a thinky mood. There's just something about sitting down with a spiral-bound notebook that says it's time to work on something, and that can be really useful when you're trying to figure something out. Number 7, they're super handy for working in tight spaces. A subway, a bus, a train, a flight, a tiny desk. Here's me at my little desk in my sound studio. Number 8, you don't have to use one hand to hold the other page down. Just flip it around. Number 9, privacy. So here's a shocker. Pretty much any time I'm sitting in a coffee shop or at a picnic table at a park or a pub and I start journaling, people will walk up to me and start talking to me about journaling. And I usually look forward to that. I love the conversations that I get into around journaling. And sometimes people are hurting and they just need to hear a kind word. I've even gotten into some really great brainstorming sessions with people that I'd never met before. It's pretty cool. But there are times when I need that privacy. So my hack is to set out a textbook and a spiral-bound notebook. And it makes it look like I'm actually working on a class. I've actually never had anybody approach me with that setup in place. Number 10, this might sound a little odd, but I think that spiral-bound notebooks look very salt of the earth. And this is just a social cultural observation. There are times when I get the look when I break out my journal. Y'all know what I mean, right? You're too good for us, you're too smart for us, that kind of thing. And I know, I shouldn't care what people think, right? And I do agree with that to a certain extent. But I also agree with a very wise perspective that I heard from Jim Rohn once, who said, why do things to alienate your audience? So I'm saying that there are certain social circumstances that I encounter that aren't necessarily conducive or appropriate for breaking out my leather-bound notebook or even a Leuchtturm. But nobody had bat an eye to see a spiral-bound notebook. So I read the room before I break mine out. Number 11. For those times when it really would be useful to tear out a piece of paper, spiral bounds are so much easier. Am I right? Nobody likes to tear pages out of their notebooks. Before I show you my favorite spiral bound notebooks, I would like to give an honorable mention to Muji, a Japanese paper manufacturer, and I'm sorry to say that I don't have an example of their product here because it's excellent. They've got a refillable spiral bound system that is super useful, super affordable, as well as a host of other affordable notebooks. Now, let's dive in. All the notebooks I talk about tonight are fountain pen friendly. I'm going to start with my most expensive notebook on the list, and it's a beauty. Solarda spiral bound notebooks come in a hardback and a softcover edition, SELARDE. They are lovely, lovely notebook. 160 pages of 90 GSM paper that's got a decent tooth to it. It's a beautiful creamy beige color. The soft cover is $9.95. The hardcover is $16.95. You know, this is actually the first spiral bound notebook that made me think, you know, I think I would actually like to journal in this. Now, I journaled in spiral bound notebooks many times before, but it was always more out of necessity. Like it was the most affordable thing I could get at the time, so that's what I got. Or I was traveling and that's all I could find handily. But these notebooks are really, really something. See how nicely they fold? You can get them from Solarda Direct, solarda.com. I picked this one up at a fountain pen show. I've got a couple of others as well. Come in black and brown. This next one is by Nebula, a Colorverse company. It's called the Nebula Casual Note. And if you want white paper, this is a really, really nice quality paper to write on. This comes in 120 pages of bright white 90 GSM paper, and it has got some tooth. It's great. The quality of this paper is really hard to overstate. It is exceptional. Very supple, yet strong, super durable. It's made in Korea by Colorverse. It's got 23 rings in the A5, solid performer, built to last. You can see the color, how the color pops, which is fairly unusual on white paper, by the way. And now just a quick highlight of the Rhodias. We've looked at them several times before. These are a very smooth writing paper, top spiral bound version. 80 sheets or 160 pages, 80 GSM paper, and it's $6 to $9, depending on the retailer. Fine paper, smooth writing. So this is the one that I actually keep at my studio desk. This is a Paperage, Paperage. I believe it's an Amazon brand. These things are really well made. Surprisingly good paper. 160 pages, slightly smaller than other A5s. The price has gone up on them recently. They used to be $9.95. They are now $12.95 on Amazon. A very fine product. Nice amount of tooth to it. Colors show up pretty nicely. It's a lovely product. This is Retici. Comes with a hard leather cover, a gold foil Tree of Life emblem. It's 160 pages of 100 GSM creamy paper with a little bit of tooth to it, $12.99. They've got this handy little pouch at the back, pretty unusual feature for a spiral bound notebook. And they include these handy section adhesives, which are very usable. They're stiff and very usable. In addition, there is a ruler that detaches and you can use as a page marker, little 6-inch ruler. Plus, they've got ribbon markers. Pretty unusual in a spiral bound. Retici offers all formats. So you've got blank paper, dot grid, graph, and ruled. And I'll show you their ruled edition in just a moment here. This is, again, the B5 for $12.95. This is the A5. By the way, these are available in different colors. I just happen to have the two light green ones. Again, with the stiff markers. This is their A5, which has 140 pages. And the Retisci ruled notebooks are all numbered. See that? So this is page 140. They have numbers and indexes. It's 100 GSM paper, slightly toothy. That removable ruler, it's $9.95. Extremely good value. And now we come to Nemassani. That's how that's pronounced, Nemassani. These notebooks are tough. 160 pages, ruled, $5.99 to $7.99 depending on the retailer. It's a very, very smooth writing experience, almost like butter. No ghosting, very, very light ghosting really. This has become kind of my spiral bound notebook of choice in a couple of different applications. I like the way they've got this date box and title at the top of every page. And the quality of the paper, it can't be denied. This is the same brand. This is the B5 Maremont Nemassani Tough Notebook Cover. It's a great travel notebook. Again, smooth writing paper. And this is one of the reasons I like to travel with it, because if I go to conventions or something, it's quiet to write on. I've mentioned several times that I really love toothy paper, but there are certain applications where it's appropriate to use a smooth writing paper. This is another one where I like to use a smooth writing paper. This is their blank A4, which I really like to use an A4 when I'm doing mind mapping. It's really handy to have a smooth writing paper when you're doing long strokes. I got these notebooks from penrealm.com and penboutique.com. This particular version is $13 on Amazon. The A5 is less than $8 from Pen Boutique or Penrealm. The B5 is less than $10 from Pen Boutique or Penrealm. So what about you? Are there any spiral bound brands that you enjoy that weren't included in this list tonight? Let me know in the comments. Okay, and this is the final episode in my series on how to choose a notebook. Leading into that series, I suggested that it would be helpful to find your why for journaling, believing that it could affect your notebook choice. Then we covered 6 videos, including tonight's. Number 1, 5 tips in choosing a notebook. 2, paper format, blank, dotted, graph, or ruled. 3, fountain pen friendly notebooks under $20. 4, size matters. And 5, the value proposition, in which I analyzed the per word cost associated with notebooks. And number 6, today's episode dealt with spiral bound notebooks. So I'm curious, have you found your notebook of choice? What are some of your favorites? Do you need some help picking one out? Please let me know in the comments. In the first episode of the series, I said that I would touch on digital journaling. I'm not opposed to digital exactly. Quite a few of my friends have chosen to go digital, or both analog and digital. You know, there are studies that show the profound benefits of analog journaling, and maybe I'll talk about that in a later video. But after trying digital for a solid year, I've just decided that I simply enjoy analog more. It allows me to detach from tech, stop the scroll, improve my cursive and printing, and reflect. It's fun to experience different papers and fountain pens and inks. And since I'm a letter writer, journaling gives me plenty of fertile ground to plant and grow ideas to say to others in letters. You know, I do think that it's important to step away from tech from time to time. And my indexing system makes retrieval a pretty simple matter, so I don't worry about that. There are some good apps out there. Day One is probably the most popular. It's the one I experimented the most with and stuck with the longest. And it allows you to incorporate things like pictures and videos and calendar tags and all kinds of really neat organizational stuff. Journey is another one. That one's a little bit more bent on thoughtful reflection. If you're really concerned about your personal data getting stolen, then you might want to look into Penzu, Penzu. That's a good choice for security. Diaro and Grid Diary are 2 others that I've experimented with that you might find useful. This channel is really going to focus on journaling with paper and pen, and I hope that you'll join me on that journey. In my next video, I'll talk about journal setup, how to organize your journal in a way that speaks to you and makes retrieval of information pretty simple. Stay tuned.